What's this so far? It's good. No remorse.
Good evening and Happy New Year, everyone. This is the collective committee meeting. This very first one for 2025 is January the 6th. And before we get into our collective committee meeting, I wanted to read something about our former president, Jimmy Carter. We know that he made it to 100, and December 29th, his life went on. And the flags will be at half-staff until January 29th. This is a quote from Jimmy Carter that I thought was just very moving. I have one life and one chance to make it count for something. My faith demands that I do whatever I can, whenever I am. I'm going to start over again because my came back on. I have one life and one chance to make it count for something. My faith demands that I do whatever I can, wherever I am, whenever I can, for as long as I can with whatever I have to try to make a difference. Jimmy Carter. If we could all stand for a moment of silence in memory of the late President Jimmy Carter. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Zuber, could you start with the Finance Committee report, please?
I surely shall. The first item we have is the bank depository. This is a 5-year, we have to renew the bank's depositories for all the banks that the city has money deposited in. This was voted out of the Finance Committee 3-0, and we're looking at passage with the suspension of the rule and on emergency passage next week at the regular meeting.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Zuber? Thank you, Mr. Zuber. The next one?
The next one is the renewal of the operating levy. This is a 1.5 mil renewal levy. We need to send to the auditor for him to determine exactly how much the collection will be. Once we get that, we will then pass another piece of legislation that we will then send to the Board of Elections. They have it put on the ballot. I don't know, Mayor, you may have some comments on this.
I would just add it, as you stated, it's a renewal, 1.5 mil, and it brings it just a little over $1 million a year.
Any questions for Mr. Zuber or Mr. Mayor? Seeing none, Mr. Zuber, your next item.
Next item is the Lorraine County ACH and electronic transactions. This is so that our finance director can receive electronic transfers from both the county auditor and the county treasurer's office. And as she is the new director in that position, we need to go ahead and pass this piece of legislation so that, or this resolution, so that she can be the one that receives that. She's the named person in the city to receive the ACHs.
And this is for the property tax.
Property tax and anything else that we get from the auditor or treasurer.
Very good. Any other discussion? The next one, Mr. Zuber?
The next one is the amended appropriation. These are appropriations. We determined some new accounts for water and sewer, and this appropriation will be to deposit the money in those funds at the request of the Municipal Utilities Board. So we are looking at that is on passage next week also, so that she can then make expenditures out of those accounts.
Any further discussion? Mr. Zuber, the next item?
Yeah, we have one item that we added, and that was to accept a grant for the bulletproof vests for the police department. That also passed out of the committee, as all these other items did, by a 3-0 vote. We need to pass that also on emergency next week so that we can take care of the funds that we received. It's $10,200. It's a reimbursement grant.
Excellent. Any other questions for this particular topic? Anything else, Mr. Zuber?
No, that's it.
Thank you. We're going to move along to other business. Mr. Spetzel?
Yes, thank you. The Lorraine County Board of Health has a board made up of several members, one of which was Ed McNamara. Ed McNamara was suggested by our council, and he vacated his term before it was up. And so he has an unexpired term running through March 31st of 2027. The board they publicly advertised and received some names for consideration for the open board position. One of those was Michaela Highland, which came recommended by Mark Adams, the director of the Lorraine County Board of Health. I spoke with actually Michaela today. She's very excited about the opportunity. She's very well educated. She owns several businesses. She's actually pursuing 2 masters in public health degrees at the same time currently, and then she'll be moving on to get her PhD. So she's very well suited for public health, and we were excited to have her be considered for this appointment.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Mayor on this appointment? Thank you. And I have one item to add, and that is just to make sure that all the council members are reminded that this Thursday we're going to have a special meeting that's going to be a strategic planning meeting. And if you could give your top 5 items that you would like to have council focus on for 2025 to Mrs. Rossmarin by Wednesday at 4:30. She will prepare the list for us to discuss and to vote on Thursday. Any questions about this process? Okay, then we'll go on to the second reading. The second reading has ordinance number 24-194. It's an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a personal services agreement for environmental consulting services and declaring an emergency. As the public and council may remember, at the last meeting, we postponed voting on it because there were some errors in the proposal with the wrong year dates. And Director Liskevec has received an updated proposal, which is in your packet. Any questions on this particular item? Seeing none, we will now go out to public input. On any topic, you can have 5 minutes. If you'd like to come forward. Welcome.
Gerald Phillips, a concerned citizen. I'd like to talk about the taxpayer demand that I made on Mr. Ebert, which you all received because you all got the email. It basically indicated that it was based on the fact that I believe there was two agreements or two items in the ordinance 24-143, which title said an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an interim development agreement with Avon Lake Environmental Redevelopment Group and declaring emergency. Well, Mr. Ebert responded indicating that there was only one agreement, which obviously is the interim development agreement. So to the extent that he says there's only one agreement, that kind of negates my demand, except for the fact if there's only one agreement, unfortunately, when I asked for a signed development agreement for the interim agreement, the letter of intent was executed by the mayor and ALERG. Now, if it's a single subject, single agreement, that shouldn't have been executed. Mr. Ebert says that there'll be an agreement in the future in his letter, okay? So he clearly indicated it was only one agreement that was the subject of ordinance 24-143. But we have a mayor who basically committed an illegal act and signed an agreement that that ordinance didn't authorize him to do, based on Mr. Ebert's opinion. I don't think a mayor should be violating the law. The rest of my time is going to be a little bit of education about criminal activity. Dereliction of duty, 2921.44E. No public servant shall recklessly fail to perform a duty expressly imposed by law with respect to his office, or recklessly do any act expressly forbidden by the law with respect to his office. That's like allowing an implosion that violates the noise ordinance, or violates the Avon Lake Fire Code, or the Ohio Fire Code about allowing implosions before sunrise and sunset. Another section, 2921.45, interfering with civil rights. No public servant, under the color of his office, employment, or authority, shall knowingly deprive or conspire or attempt to deprive any person of a constitutional or statutory right, including the freedom of speech, in front of city council, which I believe on many occasions this city council and officials have violated. Let's go to another section, 2921.31, obstructing official business. No person without privilege to do so, and with purpose to prevent, obstruct, or delay the performance by a public official of any authorized act within his official capacity shall do any act which hampers or impedes a public official in the performance of his lawful duties. How about having closed illegal meetings by the Brownfield Committee and the CIC? How about the failure to publish meetings, which are obligations imposed by law? Who's interfering with that? The Brownfield Committee, the CIC? The other thing, I would hope that anybody who's listening, any other concerned citizens in the city of Avon Lake, that they take an opportunity to look at the cable TV, channel, and they can look at the programs that I participated in about the Brownfield, the TIF, the implosion, and the interim development agreement, because we only get 5 minutes to speak when other public entities get all the time in the world when we ask to be treated equally. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else have an opinion they would like to come forward? Hello.
Good evening. William Zimmerman. Concerned citizen. As Gerald has said, we've started doing our own shows on the cable network because we only get 5 minutes. And there's not enough time in 5 minutes for us to discuss the things we do. So now we get hours. We've made new shows on a regular basis about topics that are about today's Avon Lake and how they can be better. We invite all the citizens here in the city to please tune in to Concerned Citizens. I promise you'll learn something. So, along those ways, as I've indicated several times before, I received mail, phone calls, all kinds of stuff. I received a letter. The letter says, Mr. Zimmerman, thank you for holding Mayor Spetzel, the administration, council accountable for their actions. The Avon Lake residents appreciate your and Mr. Phillips' efforts, time, commitment for the betterment, integrity, and honesty of our community and holding the mayor, administration, council accountable to the people of Avon Lake. As you are aware, Mr. Spetzel is a master manipulator, expert gaslighter, self-absorbed, self-serving, expert liar whose ego cannot get out of his own way. He only cares about the matters to him, and there is only one way to do it, and it is his way. He is not a leader, never has been. He is nothing more than self-serving politician out for himself and doesn't care about who he hurts along the way. I have heard from an insider that the administration as well as the council that they are under a directive from the mayor that they are not supposed to respond or answer to any questions from you or Mr. Phillips without the mayor or the law director's knowledge and permission to respond. That would be biased and prejudiced. What has become of Avon Lake since Mayor Spetzel has taken office, unbelievable to the people who, like you and Mr. Phillips, that we need to thank for holding him accountable. They actually made a claim that they would hope that I would run for mayor in the next election, which I will not. I enjoy this side of the panel. I've made that indicated many times. We need to replace, remove, recall the current egomaniac mayor. Once again, thank you and Mr. Phillips for all you do for the residents of Avon Lake. Now, I receive all kinds of mail, but my point is, these people aren't alone. They obviously have thought this through. They've sent me things. But one of my problems still has to do with the mayor in his directive is now slowing us down. I can make oral requests. Now I make an oral request to Lynn, who's in the HR, and I don't get it fulfilled because they want to check with you guys before. That's not how it's supposed to work. That's not the way a public records request works. You're hindering the ability of the citizens to have knowledge. Biased and prejudiced. You've already gave me 2 pieces of paper versus 50 for Mr. Phillips because he's an attorney in a previous request. You people are so corrupt it makes me want to puke. Furthermore, conference call with Mayor Spetzel, Ted Esborn, and the Brownfield Committee on 10/4 of 24. Again, from Mr. Todd Davis. If there is information that is gained in a conversation that shouldn't be done because this is a private meeting, not abiding by the Sunshine Law, if that information is used then to put into a document or something of that matter, which would be this interim agreement, it invalidates it. I'll say that again. It invalidates it. Just like when Amy asked, is there an appraisal? And the 2 of them stood up here. I checked the tape again today, and they said, well, that's part of the process. And they already had an appraisal for over a year. It invalidates the agreement.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward? Seeing none, we have a need for an executive session. Mr. Cos?
Thank you. I move that in compliance with the Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G3, council will adjourn to executive session to discuss pending litigation.
Thank you. Mr. Law Director, who would you like to have at the executive session?
The mayor, the finance director, myself, and all of council.
Madam Chair, may I amend my motion? And actually, I would like to ask the law director and also Madam President your opinion if I can do this, where it says discuss pending litigation. Can we add the words pending and imminent litigation to that?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
And I'd like to amend my motion to reflect to discuss pending and imminent litigation.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
Second.
No? There's no second?
No, just a motion,
Oh,
just a motion.
Okay, just a motion? Okay. We need to have a roll call by name.
Mrs. Fenderbosh?
Yes.
Mr. Koss,
Yes.
Mr. Zuber?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Shamir?
Yes.
Ms. Gentry?
Yes. Thank you. There will be no voting at this meeting. We will reconvene into an open session. Thank you.